This is Autoline Daily, the show dedicated to enthusiasts of the global automotive industry. Is the Cybertruck a flop? That's what Carl Brauer, the executive analyst at IC Cars, is saying. Tesla is now offering a $1,600 discount on new orders and $2,600 off if you buy one out of inventory. The fact that Tesla even has an inventory backload calls into question its build-to-order strategy. The company reportedly stopped production of the truck for 3 days last month, and it's now reassigning workers from the Cybertruck over to assembly of the Model Y. Cox Automotive reports that Tesla sold just under 39,000 Cybertrucks last year, which isn't a bad number, except that Tesla tooled the Gigafactory in Austin, Texas to make 125,000 a year. That means the line is only running at 31% of its capacity, which almost certainly means that the truck is losing money. Just a few years ago, Elon Musk bragged that they would sell 250,000 Cybertrucks a year. But at this point, that looks highly unlikely. General Motors is having a bad day. Previously, it was caught selling customer data collected in their cars by OnStar to third parties like insurance companies. And it wasn't anonymized data. It was data specific to millions of individual drivers. So now the Federal Trade Commission has banned GM from disclosing sensitive geolocation and driver behavior data to outside parties. The FTC says GM misled customers because the sign-up process for OnStar was so confusing that consumers didn't know that GM would sell their data to third parties. But the settlement with the FTC is not the end of the story. The Attorney General of Texas, Ken Paxton, is suing GM for false, deceptive, and misleading business practices. And if that lawsuit is successful, we wouldn't be surprised to see other states pile on with their own lawsuits. Meanwhile, NHTSA is opening a probe into potential failures with GM's V8 engines that go into the company's most profitable full-size pickups and SUVs. NHTSA says a bearing failure could cause the engines to seize up. The recall involves over 877,000 engines that were made from 2019 through 2024. While China is the global leader in EVs, it's burning record amounts of fossil fuels to power those vehicles and its other energy needs. According to China's National Bureau of Statistics, the country's fossil fuel power plants set a power generation record last year, with output increasing 1.5% compared to 2023. Production of coal and natural gas hit record highs, and crude oil hit its second highest total last year. And while China is leading in renewable energy deployment, it's not keeping pace with the growth in fossil fuels. As we said, China is the leader in EVs, but there's still a small part of China's total car fleet. Car News China reports there are 353 million vehicles on Chinese roads, and of those, 31.4 million are NEVs, which include BEVs, PHEVs, and EREVs. Fully electric cars account for 22 million of the NEV total, or a 70% share. And the share of electric cars is only going to keep growing. Last year, NEVs accounted for 41% of China's new car sales, and this year, they're expected to account for more than half of sales. Global battery storage is seeing significant growth. According to Bloomberg NEF, total global energy storage capacity reached 89.6 gigawatt hours in 2023, up from just 17.5 gigawatt hours in 2020. China is the leader and overtook the U.S. as the largest energy storage market in 2023. And last year, China was expected to have added 36 gigawatt hours compared to about 13 gigawatt hours in the U.S., mostly in California and Texas. And while this isn't really an automotive story, the growth in battery storage should help volumes and economies of scales for EVs.
There's nothing wrong with heavy metal.
Hey, lighten up.
But with world-class composite material, Teijin Automotive Technologies makes vehicles lighter, safer, and more eco-friendly.
We're starting to see an expansion of virtual power plants, or VPPs. Basically, any residence or business with solar panels and/or energy storage devices are combined together into one big power provider, and then the operator of the VPP sells that energy back to the grid. Tesla has operated its own VPP for years, and now a couple of companies are offering Texas homeowners free solar panels, 2 20-kilowatt-hour stationary storage batteries, and a discounted energy rate if they sign up to join their VPP. Homeowners will pay 12 cents per kilowatt hour, which is lower than the 19 to 20 cents that is typically charged in Texas. For the VPP operators, the benefit is being able to sell all that energy back to the grid, and in this case in Texas, they'll use that to cover the costs of the solar panels and batteries. So, the more people, the bigger the VPP, the more money it makes, and it helps stabilize the energy grid. As of September of last year, the Texas Virtual Power Plant had committed over 40 megawatt hours of residential battery power to the Texas market. And in some cases, EVs with bidirectional charging are getting added into the mix, so these VPPs are only going to grow. The European auto industry is going through a tough time, and that's especially true for suppliers. New vehicle sales in Europe are 3 million units lower than they were before the pandemic, and last year, European suppliers got rid of 54,000 jobs. According to CLEPA, which is the European Association of Suppliers, 2/3 of suppliers lack the finances to invest in new technology or plant modernization. Since 2019, the European supplier sector has a net loss of 94,000 jobs. CLEPA says that unless the market picks up and suppliers achieve a turnaround, the job losses will continue for years and will put the industry in a dangerous position. On yesterday's Autoline After Hours, Ed Marchese from ABB Automotive Robotics talked about how robots are being used more and more to make the cars that we drive. And Porsche says it's not only using robots to paint its cars, which are more efficient than humans, but it's also using robots to inspect the robot paint jobs. 2 robotic arms with sensors attached to them are used to scan an entire car body, and then AI scans the roughly 100,000 pictures for any defects. Porsche says it only takes about 72 seconds to scan a car, and if any defects are found, that's when it finally needs to be touched by human hands. BYD just launched another car hauling ship, and this one's even bigger than the rest. The ship can haul up to 9,200 vehicles, which is about 2,000 more than its next biggest. BYD launched its first one a year ago, and it now has 8 ships in its fleet. And one of the models it's going to be shipping is its Atto 3 SUV. BYD just announced it will start selling vehicles in South Korea this year, beginning with the Atto 3, which will then be followed by 2 other models. The electric SUV will have a starting price of just over $21,000. Initially, that might seem like a really low price, but the Atto 3 is over $5,000 cheaper in China, and as we reported the other day, Hyundai is charging about $19,000 for its Inster EV in South Korea. So it won't be the most affordable electric, but it will be interesting to see if South Korean consumers are accepting of BYD. Even though more and more public EV chargers are opening up, there's still a lack of at-home EV chargers, which is said to be holding back EV adoption. According to a survey from ChargeLab, 14% of EV owners are unable to charge at home, and 2/3 of owners use public chargers every week. So, to help drivers charge their EVs, there's a growing number of what's called friendly neighbors, or people who allow others to charge at their home. According to PlugShare, a company that maps public charging infrastructure, there are now 31,000 residences across the U.S. that offer charging to anyone who needs to plug in. The trend is especially popular with first-time EV buyers who want to help grow EV adoption, and for those living in urban areas where at-home charging isn't available. And that brings us to the end of today's show. Thanks for making Autoline a part of your day, and I hope that you have a great weekend.
Autoline Daily is brought to you by Intrepid Control Systems. Over-the-air engineering boost your game. And by Teijin Automotive Technologies, the formula for better mobility.
Developing today's vehicles, issues can happen in an instant. What good is knowing your problems without the data to solve them? Meet Wireless Neovi Cloud, your secure off-the-shelf solution, empowering real-time collaboration for quick resolution. With Wireless Neovi Cloud, your team can prevent issues before they can escalate. Driver communication data and remote diagnostics to analyze and resolve your problems using OTA, allowing your executives oversight throughout the process. Wireless Neovi Cloud, your vehicle update solution in production and on the road. Intrepid Control Systems, driven by your data.
Wards is the industry leader for news, data, and analysis. That's why companies across the globe subscribe to our premium service, maybe even your own. Log in for subscriber access now. Check your company's intranet for details, and rely on wardsauto.com to keep you informed.